Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I'm here. My lovely wife, Dr. Alicia, she should be joining us in a second. Today, there was a crazy incident that happened with Donald Trump, the former president. Somebody pulled out a gun and started shooting at his rally, and it was kind of crazy. It was kind of messy, and unfortunate. I don't want to see anybody getting shot at during this election. And so I wanted to bring in my wife and just kind of talk about some of this with you guys, and hopefully we can also get Jade Arundel from Fly Nubian Queen. And Jade is very politically oriented. Now, before I begin, I'm out of the country right now. I'm actually in Croatia, and I'd like to ask you all: can you all hear me? Give me a quick yes if you can hear me. Okay, give me a yes in the chat if my audio's coming through all right, because I don't know what what the Wi-Fi situation is when I'm in other countries. So give me a quick yes, quick sound check. Let me know if you can hear me okay. All right, so my name is Corey or Moore. Okay, I see a couple of yeses. Maureen, thank you. Deuce, thank you. Wilbert, Augusta, Curtis Ezekiel, I see you. All right, so yeah, so how many of you saw this? Did a lot of you see what happened with Trump today? I mean, he got shot. I mean, and he grabbed his ear, and he had blood coming out off his face, and so he was sort of giving a speech. uh Please fill in the blanks. I read some of it, but I know the details are coming in every second. If you have other details and information you'd like to bring in, feel free to bring this in. And I'll tell you, you know it is interesting that when you're talking about this situation, it actually kind of bothers me a little bit. Again, before we even get into deeper conversations about whether or not any of this is staged and stuff like that, and I know people have their issues and concerns or whatever about that, but I guess it's sort of like I don't like this, and I'm gonna start right there because I feel like our country's already got a lot of tension, and when you're talking about people busting guns at each other and all that, that kind of opens up an ugly Pandora's box that you just don't want to open up in this country. You just really don't. And I think my wife sent me a private chat saying that she's in here and that her mic is working. But I'm sorry, baby, I do not hear you, ma'am. So I can't add you in, or let me try to hit a button. Here we go. All right, are you in there, babe? Can you hear
Yeah,
me?
can you hear me?
There she is. We found her. We found her, and it was all my fault. It was all my fault because I didn't hit the right button, and I didn't know I was supposed to add you in there, babe. I'm so sorry. So now I know. So if Jade Arundel comes in,
Oh,
she'll be, yeah, yeah. So sorry about that. Yeah, yeah. In case you don't know, my wife and I are in separate countries right now. So I'm actually in Croatia, believe it or not, and which is actually a beautiful place. I mean, if you ever get a chance to travel overseas, I encourage you to go to Dubrovnik. That's actually where they shot Game of Thrones. So I saw a lot of the Game of Thrones scenes here. But anyway, putting that to the side, how you doing today, babe?
I'm doing all right. What time is it there? That's the question.
Oh, it's 1 o'clock in the morning here. It's one
Oh,
a.m.
one in the
here.
morning. Okay. All right. I just get used to the time difference. Okay.
Okay, now you know what's funny, babe. We'll start here. I see a lot of people who believe that this was staged. How many of you? How many of you think this was staged? How many of y'all think he just made this up, pretended to get shot, hoping nobody would find out? Because I can tell you, I did a poll on my Twitter. My Twitter is Dr. Boyce Watkins one, Dr. Boyce Watkins one, and I did ask, do you think that this incident is going to increase his chances of getting elected? The overwhelming majority of you said yes. And also, in terms of fundraising, getting people rallied and fired up, rallied around your cause, I think that an assassination does that. I remember when Ronald Reagan got shot, they pretty much handled him with kid gloves, for the rest of his term. They let him pass whatever legislation he wanted. In fact, that's what put the country in a massive debt, or gave the country so much debt now into such a massive deficit. It's because he was able to get his Reagan tax cuts pushed through, which were part of the trickle down economics that's really destroyed our economy. So, I'm wondering. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a stunt, but I haven't seen any evidence of that. And assuming we don't have any evidence that it was a stunt, babe, my thought is, it's unfortunate. What do you think?
No, yeah, I mean, it's going to strengthen his base for sure. I don't think there's anything he could ever do as long as he continues on the road that he's been on, and he's very strong in his opinions. He is very clear about what he wants and what his pregnancy, his presidency would look like.
It said
So
pregnancy.
I know pregnancy, what his presidency would look like. And I think he got that message across, and people absolutely love him. And this will probably strengthen the support that he already has. Does it make it doesn't? Is it staged? Could he have staged it? I don't know, but it doesn't matter. He can capitalize off of it. Like, what doesn't kill you make you stronger. The fact that he got up and put his fist in the air, you know, that fist in the air, that's like, I'm a man, I'm manhood. It's reminiscent of the Black Power era. He's putting this Black Power fist in the
I
air. Oh
know he
my
up here
God,
doing
that
Black
is
Power and stuff.
so
Everybody's always
crazy.
copying off black people.
Oh God, he does it well. He does it well. Imitates well. I mean, if you think about it, a lot of his antics it can be a little negative, but it can be a little stereotypical of black people. You know, some of the stuff that he says, it can be kind of funny in that sense. So yeah, I think he knows how to make things out to his benefit. I mean, if you think about it, there's been quite a few attacks against him, and they all fail. And here's yet another attack against him that has fallen. It's almost like he cannot be taken out. You can't do it politically. You can't do it with him being a so-called sexual predator. You can't do it physically. It's like he is standing strong no matter what.
Well, you know what? That's interesting. Well, you know what's interesting. I think Jade is coming in a second, but
Oh,
before we get to
great.
that, I want before we get to that, I wanted to mention, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's one of the more radical, one of the more extreme Republicans in Washington. She came in and basically said, gave an interesting update. She actually said that, I'm gonna read some of this. People at the rally are shot, possibly one
Oh,
fatality. She said possibly one fatality. She said that it looks like somebody got killed, and then she got at the top. You guys can't see it on the post, but she's already made it very political by basically saying that it's the Democrats' fault, that it was and I want to kind of address that part. Like, what do you think about about the fact that for the last several weeks you've heard a lot of fear mongering in terms of aligning the Trump administration with Project 2025, which he says he has nothing to do with, and kind of getting people scared, like right to the point where it's like we have to stop him because he's the next Hitler. You kind of started hearing that narrative. Do you think that that's just somebody who maybe took it too far, who literally just said,
oh,
I'm doing the country a favor by taking this guy out? Like, do you think that's what was going through the mind of the person who pulled that trigger?
yeah. I mean, is this like our desperate attempt to get rid of what we know is happening? There's no way Biden is going to beat Trump at this point. Not especially since all of his goofs that he's been having. It doesn't look like he's kind of got it together. Is not strong. Biden is coming across as very weak. And, this could be a very desperate attempt to say, if we can't beat you this way, we're going to have to beat you by eliminating you. And that's sad. I hope we don't get to this sort of ghettoized politics. We know Washington is a very toxic place, but good grief. I mean, I would hate that anybody in that audience at that rally would be injured, and definitely would hate for somebody to lose their life in a time like this. I think we need to be civil toward each other, and I think civility has lost its way. I love how you posted on your page a few weeks ago after the debate between Barack Obama and who was it? Who was he against?
Mitt
Barack
Romney.
Obama and Mitt Romney. That was so beautiful. Like, they were civil to each other, and how much we have just eroded away niceties with each other. I mean, debate each other on the issues and not personal attacks. And it's unfortunate that we've come to that.
Yeah, well, one thing that's also happened too with this attempt is it's really hard to vilify a person who was just the victim of a shooting, right? Like you could talk about Trump as a jerk, just an asshole and everything else, but now he's a guy who got shot. So your ability to still be to have the moral high ground and come in and say, I this guy's terrible. We got to keep him out of office because he's the next Hitler. I don't know if that argument works as much anymore. Typically, what happens a lot of times when somebody becomes a martyr, you're not allowed to sort of criticize them the way you could when they were healthy. So I kind of feel like I mean, there are a lot of people. I don't know how many of y'all think this. Give me a guess if you agree that this shooting might have been the catalyst that might catapult him into office. How many of y'all think that it's going to be that significant? I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. What do you think, babe? I mean, I think that
Yeah,
they
I
might have
mean that
elected him by doing this.
he may, I mean, he's capitalized on everything. They've tried to put him in prison. They've tried and it didn't. It seems like it's not working. It seems like he's been able to squirm his way out of every attack against him. And every time there have been efforts to pull him down, it has never worked. And it just seems like it's almost like yet another mountain for him to climb and something for him to overcome. And he's victorious at the end. He's always been victorious. I am not, by any stretch of the imagination, a Trump supporter. Let me just put that out there. I have to put that out there. I am not. Like, when I listen to some of the policy issues that Trump talks about, and when he gives a speech and he gives his opinion on things, typically, not everything, honestly, not everything. There's some things I can kind of like, I understand where he's coming from. But in terms of like political orientation, I do not align myself with him whatsoever, right? However, I am now able to remove myself from it and really look at this objective as I can and say, this is going to be yet another thing that's going to propel him into the office.
Well, guess what? Well, I have a special surprise for you. The one and only Jade Arendelle from Fly Nubian Queen
Oh,
is here,
yes.
and Jade is politically involved and active, and she was actually the first person to tell me about what happened. So I'm going to bring Jade in because I'd like to get Jade's perspective on this. And everybody, if you're not checking out Jade on Fly Nubian Queen, you really have to. She's a really smart young woman. So let me bring Jade in. Here we go. Let's see. All right. Hey Jade, can you hear us?
Hey, I can. Hey, Dr. Boyce, Dr. Alicia.
Jade,
How
how
you
you
doing?
doing?
Good. I'm gonna turn my camera on. Should I turn my
Yeah,
camera on?
you can turn
We
your
don't
camera
have
on. Our
our
cameras are
cameras
off.
on.
Okay, because
But
listen,
but you
I'm
but
not
you know
makeup
but
ready.
okay, well it's up to you. We can do audio here. There's the family's here. Oh, there she
Hey,
is. Hey Jade, how you doing? Okay,
hey.
so what do you this shooting? I mean, you were the person who put me onto this. You sent me a couple of text messages, and I said, "Oh my god!" So what are your thoughts? I mean, first of all, do you think this is real, or do you think this is possibly staged?
I definitely don't think it's staged. I think it's real. They were saying, according to reports, and I checked MSNBC, Fox News, and CNN. They were first they were saying there was gunfire and shots fired, and then they said definitively there were pops heard from the front area, like near the side of the stage where Trump was speaking. He came out to his rally in Pennsylvania. They played the American music or whatever song that they play when he comes onto stage. He does his waves on stage, and then he goes to the podium and starts to make his speech. And immediately, a few moments into him making his speech, pops rang out. Several pops rang out, according to initial reports, and the president went down on the floor. He was covered by Secret Service, and when Secret Service was trying to lift him up to take him out, he said, and you can hear him say this, "Wait, let me put my shoes on." And there was clearly blood on his ear and like on his face. And then, he gave some fist bumps to the crowd, and they started chanting USA, USA, USA. And then his motorcade took him off. So those were the initial reports. That information is pretty much consistent. Now, some folks were saying that there could have been projectiles or explosives, maybe not gunshots, but according to Congressman or Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, the, what do you call her? Bleach blonde, bad built butch body Congresswoman, according according to her social media post, and Dr. Boyce, I think I sent you this. She said people at the rally are shot, possibly one fatality. Pray for everyone involved. Pray for President Trump. May God have mercy on our enemies because we will not. And then, this iconic picture with Trump with his hand up doing the fist pump. So there were reported, there was a report of at least one person, according to outlets as well. Yes, that's the iconic photo, that there was at least one fatality. According to other reports that I heard, there was one person who was shot in the head, possibly a shooter. And I'm also hearing that there were possibly 3 to 4 shooters or suspects. So the Secret Service actually did make a statement, and I'm looking at this information in real time because this is what I do on a day-to-day basis. But, the tweets and the messages and the texts are coming in, and they're basically saying that there was one person that was allegedly shot in the head. Media reports, especially right-wing and conservative outlets, are saying that someone tried to assassinate President Trump. His base is very, very upset, as you can imagine. And last I checked before we came on, there was no official statement coming out of the White House. And so that is appearing to piss a lot of people off. Like, why hasn't the White House or the President of the United States said anything about the safety of former President Trump? So I'll stop there for now.
That's
Wow.
heavy. I mean, I
Put
don't think
that
there's ever.
picture back up. Can you put that picture back up, Boyce? The iconic
What,
photo
what,
of
what,
him with his fist in the
which
air.
picture?
The
Oh,
iconic photo
his
that
old
Jade referred
Black
to.
Panther.
That
You
is
repeat Trump.
amazing
Hold
photo.
on.
Look at that. It's almost like he's rising. Look, the American flag is
He
behind
got the
him,
flag
waving.
behind his head.
And
Yeah.
he's got his
How can you
fist
knock
up.
him like that in stage?
Yes, like he's emerging out of, it's almost like he's protecting the Secret Service. Like they're
Yeah.
crunched down. Look at them crunched down. And he's totally exposing him. Like half of his body is exposed.
What?
And
Who
he is up
did?
through the horizon. Like who took that photo? That is beautiful. The imagery here is phenomenal. I
It
mean,
is.
I'm not. Well,
looks
I,
victorious.
well, I'm not laughing about it. It's not funny, but I'm like, who the hell are these weak ass Secret Service agents? They're not supposed to
She's
let you
crunched down
stop
like the
for a
helmet
photo
top.
op. I'm saying that's the and that's the part, Jade, that makes me like when people say, "Oh, it can't be real." I that's what makes me wonder, like, what the hell's going on? Like, either this could have been faked, or it was just a blessing from God for his campaign because it was so perfectly well done. It's like you get shot, you get grazed in the ear. Now, by the way, for a bullet to hit your ear, that means it was close to your skull, right? So you get grazed in the ear, and you have the presence of mind to say, "Hold up, wait a minute." Stop, and then the Secret Service stops. They don't. Most of, from what I understand about Secret Service, they're not going to listen to you when you say, "Hold up, let me take my picture real quick." They're like, their job is to protect you, and then thirdly, for him to be able to stand up and pose for that picture while they're all sitting there risking their lives, right? Like that's the part that just doesn't add up to me. And again, I don't want anybody to get shot. I don't like it. And you know what I don't like about this, Jade, is I feel like here's the thing, people. I have not seen a lot of violence, like straight up shoot 'em up violence coming from the right or the left. I haven't really seen. I know people think I talk like that, but I just don't like. I don't see. Everybody talks about everybody's telling us vote or die, and that the Trump supporters are going to come kill us and whatever. I haven't seen that, but I do know that people on the right wing own a lot of guns, and they tend to be more prepared to throw down if necessary. Do you think that the use of a weapon is going to ignite a part of their base that's going to start getting pistol ready? Like really showing up to rallies with guns and all that. I feel like it could take us into a very dark place in American history. What do you think?
I agree. I'm very concerned about that, especially because I'm in Washington, D.C. And a lot of these groups do come here to demonstrate for one reason or another, or to conduct business or politics. I'm not far from the White House. I was actually taking a nap And then I got a phone
Wow.
call like when this all happened, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then I went out and, came back in. But what I will say is, at this particular rally today in Pennsylvania, the news reporters, especially on Fox News, they were saying that everyone was checked thoroughly when they came into the rally. So people were checked for firearms and things like that. So how these people got in there with any sorts of explosives, projectiles, and or firearms is very, very concerning. But I do believe that if you can run up on the Capitol, right? You can pull up on the U.S. Capitol and wreak havoc and go in there and urinate on offices and steal confidential files and computers and just turn up and intimidate park police and Secret Service. You can pretty much get away with a lot, at a rally. You all know Dr. Alicia and Dr. Boyce. I used to be out at these rallies and demonstrations all the time and cover them very, very, very often, especially during 2020. And I would stream them on Fly Nubian Queen. However, a lot has changed since then. Like, people are crazy, and you never know what you're going to get when you step into a large crowd, even if they say that they do have security and they are checking people. So to answer your question, I say yes. It is a major, major concern that folks, especially on the right and with Trump's base, are pissed off. And I've been listening in these rooms of like 10,000 people on Twitter Spaces, primarily conservative right-wing rooms, as a lot of this information was breaking, when I was just trying to, look at mainstream media and listen to independent journalists, and they're already arguing with each other. They're already going back and forth. They're already checking out, social media posts to see who is supporting the president or former President Trump and who is not supporting former President Trump. For example, when this transpired, moments later, Elon Musk actually sent an endorsement. He posted that he hopes he's praying for the speedy recovery of President Trump, and that President Trump has his full endorsement. So that was big because Elon's never come out directly and said that he endorses Trump. What else is there? Charlie Kirk, the founder
Mm.
of Point USA, that organization, he has tweeted that he's hearing that there were 3 to 4 shooters and that one was down. So Charlie Kirk was in the front row. So a lot of folks who are really strong on the MAGA side, they're also going over to other platforms. You will hear them talk on these Twitter Spaces. You'll hear them, you'll see them post on Twitter or post on Truth Social, which is Trump's social media platform, to give their side of the story. And then you'll see a lot of right-wing pundits and elected officials, especially like Congress people, you'll see them kind of on Fox News. So it's important to really check all these sources to see how things are being reported. But based off of what I see as I watched the video, Trump definitely grabbed his ear, looked at his hand, and then he ducked down to the floor. And then after that, Secret Service covered him. So if I'm looking at what I see right now and I'm believing my eyes, I'm led to believe that he was actually shot in the air.
Yeah, it looked like he was, right? Like that first reaction, and then you have the blood on his face and everything. It's like that first reaction seemed pretty authentic. And, and I can tell you I just don't like it. I feel like this is just the beginning. I think it's going to get worse. I think also, whoever was trying to stop him, they probably, I feel like they just got him elected. I think that they just helped him raise another $100 million. I think that I'm curious to see what the Biden administration has to say about it, because, it's just almost one of those things um, where you could have. I could, the way I see the Republicans spinning this is basically saying, the reason someone tried to shoot him is because you were instigating this. You were kind of doing what you accused him of doing in January 6th. If you remember, the accusation against Trump on January 6th was you were telling people to get out of pocket and, go after whatever, fight for their rights or whatever. And they eventually took it too far. And there might be some people who would say, yeah, you spend all this time, scaring people. Project 2025, we got to keep him out of office no matter what. And next thing somebody's showing up with a gun. And if you think about it like this, right? If you look at the language, the rhetoric Trump was using about immigration, where he literally said, "This is going to be the largest what's the word they use when they deportation, the largest mass deportation in American history." Well, if you think about this, right? If you are an undocumented citizen and you are hearing this, you're scared to death. And remember, we don't know what people from these other countries have come into America. I mean, most of them, 99% of them are wonderful law-abiding citizens, but you can't tell me that that some of them aren't people that will pull out a gun and defend themselves.
Okay,
You know,
wait,
if
hold on. Wait, Boyce, I gotta jump in here. Are you saying that are you insinuating in any stretch of the imagination that it could be possibly someone from another country that could be responsible for shooting?
I'm saying we don't know.
Okay, but I don't know, like it just sounds like you're kind of like moving the needle in that direction, and that's something that we don't know.
No, well, I'm
And
not moving in that
I think that
direction.
we need
I
to stop because
do you
immigrants, like statistically speaking, because if we want to talk about facts and numbers, statistically speaking, immigrants are very rarely will you find a person from another country that come here and their sole purpose to come here is to inflict harm and injury on anybody. If anything, they're victims of crime. And I know I
I don't know.
sent you that
Let
report. I
well
sent you that report, that
I don't
investigation. That's something that I
I
learned
don't
in my
doubt what
in
you're
my.
saying. I don't doubt what you're
Hmm.
saying. I'm saying
I'm just
anything's
saying.
possible. I'm saying
Well, I mean, yeah, it's possible,
when
but
you let hold on
not probable.
when you let hold on wait no if you let 3, 4, 5 million, 10 million people into the country and you don't know who the hell they are, you can't tell me every single one of those people is wonderful law-abiding citizens. You can't. You can say the majority, but you can't say every one of them,
Yeah, but
right?
we have to look at numbers, and the numbers say the people who come to this country from other countries are way unlikely. I mean, these are facts. They really do not have that sort of intent when they get here. And anything, if that was to happen, they could possibly be deported and all this other stuff. So I think that we need to not. I mean, just bringing that up, I just want to just clarify it for everybody. I don't want people to think that people from other countries are going to come here, and it's another part of this fear mongering thing that happens that makes us kind of look at people who are entering in here. I don't know who they are, almost like, I don't know who they are. They're going to be dangerous people. We don't know if they're dangerous or not. Well, we do have an idea of people who commit crimes, and very, very insignificant number of immigrants commit crimes. So I just wanted to put
Okay,
that out there because that's a fact.
I don't doubt what
Okay.
you're saying, but let me just say this. I came to Croatia this week, and when I got to Croatia, the guy very carefully looked through my entire passport at every single country I've been to in the last 7 years, and I've been to a lot. And he stopped at my passport and he stared at it, and said something in his walkie-talkie, and then he asked me what happened to you in London in 2017. And that's when I had to explain to him that I got detained in London because I came into the country and I did a speaking engagement and I was going to make money and I did not file the proper paperwork. And I had to tell him that. And if I had said it in a way that sounded suspicious, I wouldn't be coming to Croatia, right? So what I'm saying is I think border control is a requirement for any country that's got a lick of damn sense. Now you and I can go back and forth about this. I'll let you get the last word. Then I'd like to hear Jade's perspective because I've done too much talking already. Jade, go ahead. Or either Alicia, one of y'all two.
Go ahead, Dr. Alicia.
No, I mean, I think that's great, but he doesn't know you. You know what I mean? Even though the guy checked your passport and asked you about what happened in London, that doesn't mean, it doesn't mean that he really knows you. We know that's not going to happen, but he's just doing his due diligence, and I think that people here do their due diligence as well. I mean, it's not like you were sneaking yourself across the border, but he's just doing his due diligence, and that sort of I just don't want to put information out there um and get into more a political scaremongering thing. I think it's scaremongering. I think that here's what I really think. I think that people from different backgrounds and people from different ideas have different ideas. I think that we all need to like let go of this scare tactic thing coming from the right and the left and sit down and have a real conversation with people. Like really get to know them and start to understand other people's story and start to figure out, okay, why would somebody from another country want to come into America? What would be driving them? And just put more humanness aside of it instead of looking at that and saying they're scary and they're people who need to leave and we need to treat them a certain way. Now, I do understand the practical aspect of protecting our borders. I'm not against that. You know, I'm against using the process that's already in place to make sure that immigration is done the correct way. So that's what I am for. But I'm definitely not for demonizing people because they are looking to come to America for a better opportunity.
Okay, so Jade,
Yes.
so let's get back to the thing that happened tonight instead of debating immigration all night. So what do you think we're going to go from here? I mean, what do you think on the Trump side? First off, has there been any reports that he was actually hurt? Did you see anything to say that he just got anything other than the nick in his ear?
Well, we saw his ear bleeding. We saw him touch his ear. So, according to Washington Post, they reported from the Secret Service's spokesperson. So, I'll read what they say, but this is a sort of a tight-lipped investigation so far. Butler, Pennsylvania, that's where the rally was. Former President Donald Trump was rushed off stage from a campaign rally where on Saturday evening, after he was interrupted by loud cracks that sounded like gunshots while he was speaking. Secret Service spokesman Anthony G confirmed in a statement that there was, quote, an incident, end quote, at the rally and said that Trump is now safe. He offered no other details about what happened or about Trump's condition. So right now we do not know, but we do know that Trump was rushed out by Secret Service and his motorcade took him away from the scene. So it says the source of the noises was not immediately clear. Trump appeared to touch his ear and then duck after the sounds, which sent the crowd into a panic. The former president was not visible for a time as security rushed to his aid, but later he could be seen standing on stage with security surrounding him. The crowd cheered as officers moved with Trump off stage. Trump held his fist up, iconic photo, right? While walking off with assistance. One side of his face had what appeared to be some blood on it. So, the media, the mainstream is hilarious, in terms of how they're reporting this. But to answer your question, they are not definitively saying that he was shot. They're not definitively saying that he was actually injured. They're not using that language.
Interesting. I think that's very interesting. And by the way, I want everybody to know, I want to ask everybody really quick and let you know who I'm talking to. I'm talking to Jade Arundel from highblackesteem.com. I think that's the website that's up there. And also my wife, Dr. Alicia Watkins. And if you'd like to hear smart black women talk, Dr. Alicia and Jade are both participants on the Fly Newbie Money platform, where at flynubimoney.com, it's women that basically talk about a lot of interesting topics. And eventually they always link back to economics. And so if you want to be notified when they are live, pull out your phone, text the word Queens to 87948. The show is Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern. And a lot of you come in, and it's a great conversation. I think we need to hear from our women because they're smart and capable. And so if you text Queens to 87948, you can be notified when they go live. So Jade, I know that you stepped to the side for a minute to pop in here.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about the Biden side? Like, do you think that the Biden administration is going to change the way they're running their campaign as a result of the Trump thing? Because you think about this, it's really interesting. I feel like the last few weeks the headlines have favored Trump a little bit in the sense that for 2 weeks, everybody was talking about how Biden kept messing up and forgetting words and he called Kamala Harris Vice President Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky, he called him Vladimir Putin, and then there was the debate. So that those headlines are all pro-Trump, right? So the Trump administration was very quiet during that time. Now suddenly you've got a new set of headlines that will seem to favor Trump. I mean, do you think that? How do you respond to this if you're the Biden camp?
Yeah, I'm gonna come back on camera just so I can roll my eyes about the Biden camp. So, I'm neither a fan of Biden nor Donald J. Trump. I will not be voting for either of them in this election. I did not vote for either of them in the last election. I will say that. But what I will say is from I guess, diplomacy and like just a political, I don't know, acumen, or whatever, since like Donald President Biden could have said something in solidarity about the health of the former president of the United States. So the fact that, as far as I can see, up until now, they haven't made any statements about what clearly appeared to be an assassination attempt on a former US president's life tonight, about an hour ago or so, that speaks volumes to how divided the country is. Now, on the flip side of that, I know for a fact, well, I can pretty much guess and surmise that Biden's camp is relieved that all of that pressure and smoke that the media and the public and Democrats and everyone else has been projecting at Biden is kind of like they're looking in the other direction. They're looking at Trump. So it's kind of taking the heat and the spotlight off of Biden right now. But I will say that the debate was horrible. That was like over 2 weeks ago. But Biden actually did deliver a very, very, very strong campaign speech in Michigan day before yesterday. I think it was day before yesterday or something. So with that said, I think he put a lot of the talk kind of on pause about his senility or how fit he is to run again for another 4 years and serve for another 4 years if he is elected. But I don't know how how Biden supporters will actually be responding given this situation. I could pretty much bet that they're going to be like, oh, they could make disparaging comments basically about Trump's condition or about what happened to him or these fated events. But I am not convinced that this is going to change or switch up how the Biden camp has been campaigning. I mean, they've been pretty consistently campaigning in a particular way. They're using the same talking points, in my opinion, that they've used in 2020. It's kind of like vote for us because you can't have a dictator in office. Oh my gosh, Biden is so bad. So I know that there's a lot of talk about 2020, a project 2025, and on Fly Nubian Queen yesterday, Fly Nubian Money, when we did our panel, we did mention a bit of that in the panel that we were talking about because it was about politics. I see how fear mongering is definitely playing a role in the Democratic talking points. However, if you look at Project 2025 and read that 900-page or so document, you can see that a lot of those policies and plans are already starting to be implemented. For example, Christian nationalism having a mandatory, posting of the 10 Commandments in every single classroom in the state of Louisiana, for example, that's now signed into law by the governor, is an example of that. So that agenda is going to be in place because they've been putting those sorts of agendas in place for a long time now. So whether Biden is in office or Trump is in office, that Project 2025 plan, they're going to try to continue to implement that. But, the Democrats will be saying like, oh, vote for Biden or else, we're going to get Project 2025. And it's a bit more insidious than that, in my opinion.
I got a question, Jade, and then Alicia, you can jump in too if you want, because I'm sure y'all are gonna
Okay.
correct me on some of this. But I ain't gonna lie. When I grew up, the Ten Commandments were not a scary thing to me. I did not consider the Ten Commandments. When I went to church and saw the Ten Commandments, I didn't feel oppressed by that. I didn't feel like there was something racist or terrible about it. And I'm trying to figure out what's so scary about the Ten Commandments. Like I just don't.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I'm more concerned, honestly, about children, 9-year-olds being told they should change their gender. That bothers me because that seems to be unhealthy. That's a little strange to me. But again, whatever. I don't judge people's choices. It's just I don't. I think I should have the ability to consent whether or not you're going to even expose my child to that type of stuff. I'm not gonna get mad because you told my child thou shalt not kill. Like I'm not. So what is it about? Like when did we decide that the Ten Commandments was evil? That I really I ask that it's a serious question. What do you think, Jay? Correct me,
Yeah.
please,
Well, can
or
I
Alicia.
wanted to jump in because I think I don't I went to Catholic school, so the Ten Commandments and there's also the Beatitudes that we learned. So there was a lot of things that we learned. I like the Beatitudes more than the Ten Commandments. So if I had to choose something, it would be that. But I will say one thing. My concern was that the idea was to teach concepts in the Bible as historical text. And with that, I was like, whoa, that was the part where I kind of like was a little concerned that stories in the Bible and that 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 orientation is interpreted as a historical document. And so there's a bunch of different interpretations of the Bible, but I was just a little kind of concerned about it being taught in public schools as if it's a historical text. And my thing is, if we're going to put up the 10 commandments, we should also put up the Quran. Why not embrace all of the religions? Why does it have to be just Christianity? Why not teach in schools comparative religions or comparative theology? I think that should be taught in schools for sure. Like, let's compare and contrast the orientation, all of the different ideas and concepts that come with a religion and the 10 commandments. What are the thoughts about all of the other religions? There's tons of religions there. And so my issue was just that, why Christianity? And I'm compassionate toward individuals who aren't Christians. I'm compassionate toward people who are Muslim and who are Hindu and who are part of other ways of thinking about things. So that was part of my issue when it comes to like just putting up the 10 commandments and talking about the Bible as if it's a historic text.
Okay,
Yeah, I agree
Jade.
with that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was
No,
going to say I
please
agree
go
with
ahead.
that, Dr. Alicia. Oh, so go ahead, Dr. Boyce.
No, no, no. I was gonna say you go ahead. I wanted to hear what you had to say. My apologies.
Yeah, I think, well, for me, it's I'm a Christian, first of all, right? But I mean, not but, and everyone else, is not. And so we do have like separation between church and state. Now, I'm a fan of prayer in schools if parents, consent to it, but it can't just be focused on one denomination or one religion, to Dr. Alicia's point. So it needs to be inclusive. The issue with the 10 Commandments in classrooms is that it promotes Christian nationalism. It puts Christianity and Christian values on a hierarchy and projects that onto all public school kids. With at least that's the plan. And we have children that practice many different faiths. We have students who are Buddhists, who are Muslim, who practice Judaism, or who practice other forms of African religion or spirituality. And I believe that parents are responsible for teaching those values to their children, and it doesn't need to be forced upon them in the classroom. So I think it's the nationalism part that goes with the Christianity part for me that really violates the separation between church and state. But in Project 2025, when you read about it, I mean, there's so many things in there that are really set to challenge the way that society has been functioning in many ways. And arguably, some things folks may agree with in it, and some folks may not agree with a lot of it in it. When people are talking about mass deportation and checking people's paperwork, well, who do you think is going to be targeted for that first? Black folks, right? Giving police immunity. Definitely allowing the police to just sort of get away with murders, brutality, et cetera, is not a good look. And it's definitely not a good look for Black folks. So I think that, that's one of those documents and things that we as a people should really be looking at these policies very, very thoroughly, especially when we're picking our candidates, even at the local level, because a lot of them are carrying out some type of agenda, whether it's a right wing or conservative agenda or a liberal agenda. So that's my feedback on that.
Well, you know what? I was okay, so that makes sense. Okay, so I'd be curious to know more. I mean, you studied Project 2025, and you were kind of looking at it, and I know you brought it up during the Fly Nubian Queen episode this week. And by the way, everybody, if you want to see when Jade and Alicia are doing Fly Nubian Money, during the week on the Fly Nubian Queen channel, just text the word Queens to 87948. So let me ask you this: what are some parts of Project 2025 that you were most bothered by in terms of things that you saw personally, Jake? It seemed to me that was something you didn't really support. Can you tell us a little bit more about it? I read some of it, but I'd be curious to know what stood out to you the most.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. I mean, definitely giving the police immunity, and especially me as an activist and an organizer and someone who was, I guess you could say, turning up during 2020, following these protests and being very, very upset and mobilized. Like, that is extremely concerning, to think that the police could just have immunity and not be charged for brutality or officer involved shootings. That's The fact that the Supreme Court ruled that the President of the United States has total immunity for official acts, um, while serving as president is very, very concerning because that opens up the door for dictatorship type. We don't, given whoever is in office and how they respond to certain things, that's going to determine how that law, that policy plays out for them. So I am just really concerned about that. They want to criminalize some things around women's reproductive health, birth control. For example, they have a whole section about climate change. A lot of these people don't believe that climate change is real. So, so I saw some things in there about abolishing certain institutions within or departments within the federal government, such as abolishing the Department of Education and other departments. It's just a complete overhaul of a lot of things, and I think it's pretty concerning. Um, I mean, I don't know. It's just a lot. It's just a lot in there. So I look forward to hopefully like really sitting down and writing out the things in it that I saw that were extremely terrible. And even being fair to say, okay, does this sound rational? Like what things in it sound rational? But again, it's like 1,000 pages. So yeah, I'm concerned about
Okay.
healthcare. They want to put Medicare on the path to privatization, repeal President Biden's Medicare drug price negotiation program, threaten Medicaid coverage for hundreds of thousands of Americans. Imagine if hundreds of thousands or millions of Black Americans especially lose access to Medicare and Medicaid. Like what does that say about the health of our community? But it also goes back to what you teach, Dr. Boyce, Dr. Alicia, around us being self-sufficient and practicing self-determination and making sure that we're able to take care of ourselves, right? Just really cutting a lot of federal government programming that a lot of folks within our community benefit from. Gut the federal workforce and install loyalists to make tens of thousands of civil servants fireable at the president's will, for example, is one of the things that come up. Further lower taxes on big corporations. Big corporations should be paying the most taxes. Some people pay more taxes than Amazon, right? So there's things in there that are very, very questionable.
Okay. So what I want to do is I'm going to read something in terms of a report that I found as I was kind of looking up information on the shooting. First thing I'll say is there are reports that it was actually glass fragments that hit President Trump, and it wasn't actually a bullet. And so that's the first thing. The second piece was that there are lawmakers who've issued statements. Nancy Pelosi says, as one whose family has been the victim of political violence, I know firsthand that any political violence of any kind has no place in our society. I thank God that former President Trump is safe. And then she said more. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, said, Kelly and I are praying for President Trump and all the attendees. The campaign rally, Mitch McConnell, well, he's going to say something positive. I'm looking to see what the Democrats have to say. Yeah, so it looks like most of the Democrats and the Republicans, a lot of them have actually started standing up and basically doing the mature thing, basically saying we don't want you to get shot, right? This is taking it too far, and I'm glad to see that. Now, here is a witness, Blake Marnell, 59, from San Diego, who's the supporter who wears a black suit in homage to Trump. He was at the shooting. Here's what he said. He says, I'm in the front row, center, with some friends watching the president speak. He was speaking about immigration. He had a big slide on the big screen on the Jumbotron. I was watching him and then I heard some noises. I registered them as coming from my left as I looked straight ahead at the president. I didn't know what they were. I don't have any training that would help me to recognize gunshots from firecrackers or something like that. I was hoping it was a prank. It was a bad joke. I turned to my left, didn't see anything initially. I then turned back toward the president, and that's when I saw him essentially being tackled to the ground by the Secret Service. Then I heard some more noises, which at that point I believed to be shots, based on what the Secret Service was doing. I crouched down, and then seeing there were no more noises, got back up a little bit and tried to pay attention to what they were doing right behind the podium. I could hear the Secret Service agents talking. I did not hear any call for medical. I did hear them begin to coordinate. Let's get ready to move him, do a countdown. Then they brought him out. I was really apprehensive that they were going to carry him, but instead he was on his feet and he was shaking his fist defiantly. I could see blood above his right ear. I can't say where that came from. He could have cut his ear when they tackled him. He could have hit it on the podium. It could have been a gunshot or ricochet. I don't know where it was. There was clearly blood. I can't even say if it was his blood. A Secret Service agent could have cut their hand transferring blood to his head. But I could tell that there was blood. There was the natural influence that he's injured. I was optimistic based on the fact that he was shaking his fist, and then he says a little bit more. So it looks to me like so Trump was hit by glass fragments according to a lot of reports. And there is an emergency room doctor who said that they spoke with or a person spoke with an emergency room doctor who tried to save someone's life in the crowd. So apparently somebody in the crowd was shot. I even heard killed. So Dr. Alicia, I want to ask you this question, babe. What do you
Yeah.
think in terms of the trauma of just being there?
The
Like if
tr-
you yeah, I mean that's got to be traumatic to even be in that space. And it was interesting because in the moment you didn't see people behaving the way you would expect people to act if they're shooting. They were kind of just standing there. It was like pop, 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 and I was like, why aren't people getting on the ground, ducking? What do you think is kind of going on with that? And just how do you process something like that? If you're at that rally and you watch somebody get shot like that, that's got to be just unsettling.
Yeah, I think it's for sure unsettling. And wow, we are getting, I just want to say, we're getting news live. It's coming in as we're talking about it. And I'm really curious about if they found the shooter, because if they did all of the security that Jade is referred to, and it looks like it's multiple people, I hope these people are arrested and discovered and, definitely pay for what they've done, because that's really that's egregious, right? And so the people in the audience, yeah, so some people were just standing there in shock. And so that's a that's a very real reaction to a traumatic event like that, is to freeze. I noticed there are people who are freezing. Some people ran, which is, flight. Some people run and they freeze. And so that's a typical reaction that people do when they're in when they're surprised, when they see something that is potentially deadly. And it is a traumatic event. And so I'm hoping that, if anything, there's first responders on the scene that can help do a debrief with people in the audience. And hopefully there are people in Pennsylvania who are there, like a response team. I don't know how this happens, but there definitely needs to be a response team or some way to help people process what's happened to them so it's not traumatic. And that's what I would encourage all of us. If we see things happen to us that is shocking and disturbing, to just have a place where you can kind of talk about it so that it doesn't become traumatic for you. So it's a potentially traumatic situation. I just can't imagine being at a Trump rally and you're here because you want to know this is your candidate and you're excited about what they have to say, and then you're in the middle of something, a Manchurian Candidate. I don't know why that movie just comes up. Like there's like a Manchurian Candidate up here, just programmed to inflict harm and pain on somebody, a televised event in that way. So this is unfortunate, and I'm just very interested, and I'll be glued to the TV now, Boyce, trying to find out exactly in the next couple of hours and even couple of days how this is going to flesh out, and hopefully identify the individuals who've done this. I mean, part of trauma and experiencing a traumatic event is making sure that justice is done, making sure that the people who are responsible are caught and brought to justice. So that helps to make things a little better. And yeah, so that's what I have to say in terms of a traumatic possible response.
So, Dr. Alicia, they
Hmm.
are reporting that this one suspect was neutralized. That's the word, that's the language that CBS
Oh,
News used. And then also that a person in the crowd also died. So
oh,
seems like possibly two people will be, have died. And so what are the implications of trauma for people who witnessed that, like two murders or deaths rather at a political rally that's supposed to be a fun.
Oh, yeah, and it's supposed to be safe. I mean, you would think the Secret Service and checking everybody's bags. I mean, you would think, that we can, here we go again, rely on these systems in place. And by the way, I'm just listening to you talk about Project 2025. That is deeply disturbing. It is
Yes.
a deeply disturbing document.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. It is
Yeah.
almost a nightmare situation if we as a country were to adhere to any of those policies. That would be just absolutely horrific.
Listen,
It's just frightening.
there were parts of it around like women's reproductive health and stuff like that. And again, I am a pro-life. I make pro-life choices. Well, I would
Yeah.
make pro-life
Me
choices.
too.
But,
Yeah.
people want to are pro-choice, women get to be pro-choice, but there were parts of reading it, especially with the whole Christian nationalism thing. I could not, Dr. Alicia, get the image of that series, A Handmaid's Tale, out of my,
Yes.
it's really scary out there. That document is very scary. Um, so I wanted to mention that, yeah, it reminds me of A Handmaid's Tale, but also, Dr. Alicia, as you were speaking, I was like, yo, what if, what about the people who were there at that rally? People bring their kids to rallies all the time. Like,
Yes, they
so
do.
what about the implications of trauma for a child or a teenager that's there?
Yeah, I mean, it's just sit and talk to them. How are you feeling? What happened? Having that person discuss what all happened to them. Just a place where a child can process it. If you don't have a place to process things, you are going to experience trauma. Trauma is what happens to you. So a shooting like that is not traumatic for everybody. It's not going to be traumatic for everyone, but if you already on the edge and you don't have a good support system, you're not comfortable talking about how you feel and sharing your thoughts about things and process and getting it out of the body, because trauma is where you hold things in and you suppress things. It's like an emotional suppression, and not being able to get that out, that is where trauma sets in, right? It's not the event that's trauma, it's what it does to your body and not being able to express it, if that makes sense. So
Mm. Well, let me hop
mhm.
in real quick, and first off, I want to say to everybody, thank you guys for hanging out with us, and if you could please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. We're talking about what happened tonight with Donald Trump and the shooting, and also if you want to get Dr. Alicia's website, her website is on the screen. It's coachingwithdralicia.com. So she's a licensed therapist and a full professor of social work. If you'd like to meet with her or set up an appointment, feel free to do that. And also, Jade Arendelle is with us. Jade Arendelle from Fly Nubian Queen. And her website is highblackesteem.com. That's highblackesteem.com. So hope you support these sisters. And also just know that they are part of the crew over at Fly Nubian Queen. And so the show that they do, which is called Fly Nubian Money, it's every single Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern. And if you'd like to be notified when they go live, just pull out your phone, text the word Queens to 87948. That's Queens to 87948. Okay, so let me mention. I don't know if you ladies know that Joe Biden just issued a statement on this incident, and here's what the Biden administration says. They wrote that the president says, "I've been briefed on the shooting at Donald Trump's rally in Pennsylvania. I'm grateful to hear he's safe and doing well. I'm praying for him and his family and for all those who were at the rally as we wait further information. Jill and I are grateful to the Secret Service for getting him to safety. There's no place for this kind of violence in America. We must unite as one nation to condemn it." Now, I'm I'm gonna tell y'all the truth. Now, you know what? When I read this statement, I like this statement because I know that if it were the other way around, if somebody was, trying to bust caps at Joe Biden, Trump would not issue a statement like this. Trump would say something nasty, petty. I don't think Trump has that ability to rise up in a situation like that and just say something that is beneficial, for the country. And that's what disturbs me about him. I've always felt like he's a narcissist. Now, I don't think Biden is qualified, and I think that that's clear. He's repeatedly reminded people that he's just not qualified for the job. I also don't think that it's the end of the world for Trump to be president. I don't. I think some people just want a stronger leader, and I don't think Biden is the strongest guy in this race. But I do like the statement because I think what our country needs right now is to calm people down. I think there's a lot of fear when you talked about that trauma, Alicia. I just thought about the whole country is traumatized by this because you entered into a new space. Like what our country needs to think about is that we are very lucky that our elections are not settled in blood. There are countries all around the world where elections are settled in blood. I'm in Croatia right now, and they had a civil war in the '90s. It's a beautiful, beautiful place, wonderful people, but they had a civil war in the '90s that led to ethnic cleansing. And so I would just say, for those of you that like peace, don't take peace for granted. Don't take your political rhetoric too far. Even with black folks, it drives me crazy when I see black folks talking about, I'm not going to talk to my cousin because they voted for Trump, or I can't stand my sister because she voted for Biden. I don't care who you vote for. I don't think that that should override my relationship with you. And it's like a basketball game. Like if you're in a basketball game, you can be as competitive as you want. But if somebody gets mad and pulls out a gun or decides I'm not going to talk to you no more because I didn't win on the basketball court, that's too far. And I think that's what happens in this country, Jade. I'd be curious to know what you think about that. I feel like we take our politics a little too far. Look, if you don't like, I heard you talk about Project 2025, and I'm gonna tell you, I agree that there were some elements in there that I definitely would not agree with. But I know people who would agree with some of that, and I think it's more. I heard a bunch of conservative policies. That's what I heard. I didn't really hear the end of the world. I heard conservative politics. And so I kind of feel like sometimes we take it too far and make it too serious. Don't you think? Because and then you have stuff like this happen and it only continues to get worse.
Yeah, I just really these are gonna be an interesting few days. Today we were expecting for former President Donald Trump to announce his running mate for vice president. We still don't know who that person is going to be, and we are now what 2 days off of the or 2 days out from the Republican National Convention. So this is going to be dominating the news cycle. Whatever conservative policies that folks were talking about, I think that this just gave that base more and ammunition or gusto to really beef up those, pushing those policies forward. So we shall see what happens. I'm always looking at, I am an independent. I'm a newly registered independent, by the way. I'm really proud of that. And I am conservative leaning. I'm more conservative leaning as an independent than I am as a Democrat at this point when it comes on to particular issues. However, I'm always looking at all of the issues and policies that the left and the right are putting out and how they are going to impact Black folks, disadvantage Black folks, and or benefit Black folks. So we shall see.
Yeah, well, by the way, Barack Obama put out a statement, and as usual, he's one of the few grown-ups in the room, and he said there's absolutely no place for political violence in our democracy. Although we don't yet know exactly what happened, we should all be relieved that former President Trump wasn't seriously hurt and use this moment to recommit ourselves to civility and respect in our politics. Michelle and I are wishing him a quick recovery. And I love that. I like that statement a lot because he sees the bigger picture, and that's an area I give the Democrats some credit for is being able to see the bigger picture in this and maintaining the civility that I think we should have in the White House. I don't think Trump maintains that, but at the same time, I think that the way that they've sort of just trained people to just be afraid of a guy. I mean, we had 4 years of a Trump presidency. We all survived that. I just don't want to. I don't need you to tell me that. Oh, but this time he's really going to come in and kill us all. I just I stop. Just I went through 4 years of that. I can go through 4 more years, and I think as Black people, vote for whoever the hell you want. And I don't think anybody has a right to tell you who to vote for. And what I like about what you're doing, Jade, by being independent, is I think that is ahead of your time. Like you're looking at the future. The future of America, in my opinion, is at some point somebody's going to bust us out this matrix that we're in. Right? I believe at some point we're going to see millions of people do exactly what you're doing because what happens in politics is people box you up. And so if you are a Democrat and you say, yeah, some of these policies I don't like, I'm a little more conservative than y'all are, then they say, oh, you must be a Republican. Or and then if you're a Republican and you support, like if you say, well, maybe we shouldn't get police immunity, right? Then they're like, oh, you sound like the liberals. It's like, no, you're just saying that there should be some checks and balances to make sure people don't abuse their power. That's called common sense. And unfortunately that extremism gets away from common sense. Like common sense to me says, yeah, I think police officers should be safe. My father was a cop. I didn't want my father to go out here and get hurt. But at the same time, if he was out here doing something illegal, there should be a penalty for that. That's common sense. There's nothing, most people would understand that. So to talk about just blanket immunity for cops, that's crazy. I don't think they would ever get that passed, first of all, and also it wouldn't make any sense, right? So ultimately, longer term, I think that what you did, even though in the short term it may seem like you're wasting a vote, that's what people tell you when you vote independent. Oh, you're wasting your vote. You're not wasting your vote. You're being heard loud and clear, and I think millions of people, more people agree with that than there are who agree with the Biden or Trump or left versus right kind of approach to politics anyway.
Yeah, thank
No,
you. Go ahead, Dr. Alicia.
no, I was gonna agree with you all. I mean, I think I have problems with the left looking at Donald Trump and everything he does is wrong. Like, really? Everything he does, every policy he's in favor of, all of it is 100% incorrect. Like, you can't possibly say that about anybody. Like, that lets me know that you're not thinking independently, that you're allowing the news media to kind of skew your thinking, and you're not even thinking independently. You're just going off of what someone says. Oh, Trump did this thing. Everything he's done is incorrect and terrible. I mean, we couldn't possibly say that about him. And then on the other side, I mean, everything Biden does is incorrect. Like, no, everything he has done since he's been president has not been all bad. Yeah, there's some things that he's done that I don't agree with, but there's some things that he's done that I do agree with. Some of the things that Biden has done, some of the things that Trump has done, I absolutely agree with him. So I think that we need to just acknowledge that not everybody is all bad and all good. That's the first thing. And the last thing I will say is that I think we need to allow difference. Like, I love that the three of us can get on here and have a conversation and talk about my perspective and your perspective and Jade's perspective and Boyce's perspective, all of our perspectives. We don't have to agree. There's no uni think, like one think. Like, all of us have different backgrounds. There's different things that we're concerned about and different values that we hold, to ourselves. And it is okay for us to agree. Just because I'm married to you doesn't mean I have to 100% agree with everything that you say. And I definitely don't expect you to agree with me. So I think the lesson here is to allow difference. Why sometimes people get offended because another person thinks differently than how I think. Maybe you can learn from that different way of thinking. So I mean, if anything, that's where we all need to rest ourselves.
Well, I agree. I agree, and I think on that note, I think that's a good segue for us to finish the conversation. I'll make a final statement. I'll let you two ladies kind of get the last word. And I appreciate Jade joining us. And before I move on from that, though, I hope everybody will go follow Jade. I'm gonna show you her website, which will pop up on the screen in 1 second. There it is. It's highblackesteem.com. Her name is Jade Arundel. I see Jade Harriel, but it's
Harrell.
Arundel, right?
It
Harrell.
was Harrell Arundel, but it's Harrell. Harrell.
Oh, okay, Harrell. Okay, I'm sorry, Jade. Jade Harrell. From yeah, you gotta help me understand that. But either way, the amazing Jade. How about that? Her website is highblackesteem.com, and I hope you'll go check her out. Also, Dr. Alicia, my wife, is on here as well, and she is a licensed therapist and a full professor of social work. And if you'd like to see what she does and maybe make an appointment, reach out to her. Feel free to go to coachingwithdralicia.com. And these are two of the smart ladies that actually appear on Fly Nubian Money. That's a daily show every day, Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. And so if you'd like to be notified when they go live, just pull out your phone, text Queens to 87948. You can text Queens to 87948. Everybody, we got to support smart sisters out here. So I hope everybody will do that. I'll leave it on the screen for you. Now, so here's my final thought on this, okay? I personally think that, that this this incident bothers me because I feel like when you start escalating violence, and I'm sure, Alicia, I'm sure you can. I actually learned some of this from all these relationship therapists I get to hear from now that my wife is one, right? So I learned from my wife. I learned from the stuff she studies, and one thing I do recall was that when you're talking about conflict, the more you escalate it, the more you have a chance that it's going to be out of control. Almost like a fire. You know, the more you pour gasoline on it, the bigger it's going to get. And I feel like when you open that door to somebody using a weapon to make their point politically, it's only going to cause somebody else to pull out a bigger weapon. What I see right now from this incident is a lot of Trump supporters getting real fired up right now, real fired up. They're gonna start donating money. They're going to. Trump knew this. He knows this. He's not. He's strategic. Y'all get mad. Y'all think he's just a dummy. He ain't no dummy. This man knew in the moment. He's not a two things Trump is not, and I'm sorry, I know people gonna disagree with me, but two things he is not is he's not a dummy, he's not a coward. And the reason I say that is because number one, he knew as soon as that blood was on his face, he knew that that was a political asset that he could take advantage of. And the reason I say he's not a coward is in the middle of like getting shot, where I think his life really was in danger, he still stood up and threw up that fist. Like I ain't scared of none of y'all. And the reason that didn't surprise me is because I've read Trump's history. I read his bio from the time he was born. I read his family history going back 100 years. And one thing his father did was his father sent him to military school at the age of 12. And he said to him, he said, you're going to have to fight. People, you're going to have haters. You're going to be the man. People going to fight you and you better fight back. So that's where you get all this posturing, this really, sort of aggressive kind of old man that he is, right? And so to me, I feel like this incident really got the base fired up. I think that they're going to be inspired by him. He's now a martyr. They're going to give him just shit tons of money. Also, at his rallies going forward, you're going to see a lot of people in the audience who are going to be some NRA gun toting type people that are going to be like down for whatever. The militias are going to start getting fired up and all that, and you run the risk of really igniting some type of violence, some type of race war, or something like that. And that's not what I want to see in this country. And that's what bothers me the most about all of this. Now, I'm going to defer to you, Dr. Alicia. Maybe Jay can get the last word. What are your thoughts on anything that I just said, babe, or anything that comes to mind for you?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have studied Trump's past, and he definitely is a trauma survivor himself because some of the things that he experienced as a child, I'm like, ooh, that was traumatic. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me that he would respond and say some of the things that he said based on his childhood. So that's the first thing. Second thing, I'm really surprised, and I'm waiting for this to happen, y'all. Let's see if this happens if they spin this into like a political move to ban weapons. That's always like a very liberal idea is to crack down and ban weapons. So I'm just interested to see if someone got in with a shotgun or not a shotgun, but any sort of pistol or whatever, someone got in with a weapon like that, if that would be a way to kind of politicize it and say, hey, this is why we need to crack down on these things. So that's very fascinating. I mean, my prediction, just as always, I predicted, you Boyce, you know this, from years ago, I predicted that Donald Trump is someone that can't be silenced. Like he is somebody that, I mean, I don't know if there's a witch hunt against him. I'm looking at, from what I'm looking at, there seems like there is a witch hunt against him. And whatever it is not working. It is all it's doing is making him stronger. It's making his base more committed. And I really do see him being president. And we went through 4 years of a Donald Trump presidency, and there was no wars. So that's a fact. You know how I am, Boyce, as a scientist, I like to look at facts. There was absolutely no war that I could actually like point to that happened while he was in office. So I mean, it's not. I agree with you. It's not going to be the end of the world if when he becomes president, because I really don't think Biden has what it takes at this point to beat him. So those are my final thoughts.
Okay,
Yes,
Jade.
Jay.
I agree with all of that, Dr. Alicia. My final thoughts are Whew, this happening right after the debate debacle and all of this talk about Biden being incompetent to run for president is not good. There are swing states that we really need to be paying attention to, and just really quickly, I'll read them off because we have to go. Those 7 swing states are gonna ultimately determine the next president are Pennsylvania. Okay, that's where this incident happened today. It was at a Trump rally in Pennsylvania. So Pennsylvania is a swing state. North Carolina, Georgia, Wisconsin, Nevada, Arizona, and Michigan. Those are the swing states. So those states are going to ultimately determine who wins. And it seems that this incident will help Trump get a lot more supporters. People who are on the fence now may just actually support him. So those are my final words. Thank you for having me. And make sure y'all tune in to Fly Newbie and Queen on weekdays.
Yes. Yeah. So anybody wants to be notified when Jade and Alicia and the rest of the Queens go live, just text the word Queens to 87948. They go live Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Also, my name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. And as you guys know, we do a lot of great stuff in the Black Business School. So if wealth is your thing and you want to build wealth for your family, I have a free training called How to Make Money Without Working. And it's all about stock options and how to generate income with stock options. So if you're interested in that, just pull out your phone, text the word money to 87948. Text money to 87948. I will send it to you tonight. You can get started tonight. I promise you it works and you're going to love it. All right. So thank you, Jade, and thank you, Dr. Alicia. I appreciate you very much. And I think my Wi Fi is acting a little weird because I'm in Croatia. So I'm going to go ahead and shut this down. God bless you all. Have a good night. Love you. And we will talk to you soon. Take care now. Bye bye.